Okay, awesome. So
Yeah.
great. This is awesome. Okay, so we
Everything
are
is awesome.
so we are officially recording. Yeah. So for reference for people watching, Charlie and I run HyperSponge Studios, and we're working on a new game, and we don't really know what it's called yet or anything like that. But
I'm pretty sure it's called Space Tanks Jam.
Space Tanks Jam. It might be. Yeah.
It might be. It's up for debate.
Doesn't sound far from the truth. Anyhow, so we figured we document our entire design process. Yeah, so this is our first documented meeting, and I guess this is the third meeting that we've had about this in general.
Yeah, roughly like the second or third, depending on how you count. We had this crazy idea that we could build a game and release a game in 2 months in our spare time because we both have full-time jobs. But we were like, that's not enough work. We're going to do extra work and release a game in 2 months. And so this will be the start of week 2 out of an 8-week sprint. And by week 8, we should have a game on Steam, and by week 10, we should be millionaires. So
yeah.
So it's really, I like the process that we've been following, where we just kind of threw a bunch of ideas at the wall and then started iterating on it. And it's funny because basically the only thing that's still around from our original pitch is reflective objects that you can move and projectiles of some kind.
Yeah.
But it's evolved into, I think, a real-time strategy game now, which I'm pretty psyched to build. I think that's going to be really fun.
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah. I'm just gonna paste the notes from our recent meeting in chat, so we can kind of scroll through them and talk through just where we left off. And then we can talk from there about what comes next.
Yes. Show messages. Let's see. Oh my god, that's huge.
Dude, I've been playing Anno 1800. Have you heard of that game?
Which one?
Anno 1800.
Oh no.
A-N-N-O. Anno.
A-N-N-O. No.
Okay, it's like
no.
city building game.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I love city building games.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Although there's a lot of things that are weird and different about it. Okay, so going into
Did you paste them at the thing? I'm looking at what I think is the chat, but I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, I hadn't yet.
Oh, okay. Oh, sweet. Cool. That came up on my screen.
Pretty chat though.
So this will be in our video now because I have it here.
Yeah, I guess there's a limited length of chat, so. Oh, you know what? I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
And just for the viewers to understand because they kind of missed the whole description of what the game is. It's essentially a real-time strategy game, which could be described as like a 1 versus 1. Except that you're primarily going to fight against AI because we don't want to deal with matchmaking and void of players and stuff like that. But theoretically, we could make it to be 1v1 multiplayer. And it's a real-time strategy, so you have these little bases that you have to defend, and the only assets you have to start with are these mirrors. And I think, did we say you also get one of the super cannons first, or you have to build, you have to like collect resources and build stronger cannons and stuff. So yeah, so you're going to be positioned in 3D, you start the game, you have your bases, and then elsewhere in 3D is the enemy, and they're building stuff to try to kill you, and you have to defend your stuff and try to kill their stuff. So their setup will be identical to yours, but you won't see what they're doing because of space fog, and so you'll have to explore your immediate area to find them, and then you'll attack each other until somebody dies, or rather somebody's bases die.
Yeah, and the other core aspect of the game, and so let's just go through it. Yeah, so everything is going to be about repositioning assets that you have. So basically, like the multitasking will be around, as a player, you will be grabbing something and then repositioning it, and then it'll take time. Well, we'll explore. It, we'll see what it ends up, because we're thinking about two different things. One is you grab something and you move it, and then it takes time to get there. And while it's going there, you're multitasking and moving other things as well.
It's like the equivalent of ordering a unit around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's almost like real-time chess in that sense, but the pieces take time to move. And like there'll be an economy where essentially you have like a very simple economy where you're like, there are resources and you have to collect the resources with a resource collector, which is very vulnerable. Um, yeah. So that's really the level of fidelity of the idea that we have, or the granularity. I don't know,
Yeah,
how
we're
rough
trying to
it
keep
is.
it super simple because it's easy for games to spiral out of control with complexity. So we're thinking keep the actual things you can do and what's going on to an absolute minimum, and
Right.
but try to make those components interact with each other in a way that emerges into something really fun.
Right.
This would be analogous to like how Portal is basically just a series of obstacle courses with a single mechanic of a portal gun, and just out of that, there were so many different things you could do with it, and many games work like this. That's just one example. So we're
Yeah.
trying to do very simple things, but it's going to evolve into fun gameplay, we hope.
Yeah, and our objective is to really like play up that immersion capacity, and basically like there's the term elegance, which is like you use very simple rules yield very dynamic and compelling and complex phenomena. So like evolution is the perfect example, right? It's simply competition, and obviously that's much more complicated than what we're dealing with, but it's simply competition and it
It's a
yields all
little
this
bit more
complexity.
complicated. I mean, we're practically one step before evolution, I would say.
Yeah. So I'm just going to share my screen and show you basically like what I had in Unity.
Yeah, so last time at our last meeting, Alex said that you said that you were going to build a scaled version of, you're going to build a version of the scene that is going to be to scale as far as what size things should be to give us a feeling of how the game is going to come together. And today's meeting is to talk about, okay, we have the scene and these assets. Let's figure out what commands we want to be able to do and what actions we want to be able to take, and try to just get some very, very simple gameplay going.
Yeah. Yeah. So
can you maximize your scene view?
Yeah. Well, I'm not in play, but you know what I can do? I'll just.
You should be able to hit like Shift Spacebar, and it should maximize your scene. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. Okay, so basically, what do we have here? We have
empty space.
It's really weird not having the inspector panel. Yeah, I can't do that. Too much. Okay, so what do we have here? So this thing is like the planet or the base. So it's very simple, structurally very simple, and that's the other thing that we want to go with.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle of adding volumetric lights, because volumetric lights would also be like the perfect fit for this. So volumetric lights are basically, normally if you have a fog in a space, you'll have and there's a light. The light will kind of illuminate the fog and create this almost like halo-like phenomenon. So in Unity, lighting is really intensive and resource intensive, especially if you have a lot of different lights in the same scene. So having a number of different objects, just giving them volumetric lights, which basically create imaginary fog and then illuminate that fog, but they don't illuminate things outside of the fog necessarily. So that could be better for resources, like it being too intensive on the processor.
For our viewers unfamiliar with Alex, he is very into volumetric lighting. So we're definitely going to make it a core part of the visuals of the game.
Right. So anyhow, so the player would have 3 bases, or might have 3 bases. So I'm just duplicating these bases, simple bases here. So this base, for instance, like you can order it to move around. And what I was thinking is the resource collector will has to return the resources to a base. So logically, you would want to send it to the closest base, which would be good because then it's from an emergent gameplay strategy perspective, it encourages players to move their bases further apart because the resources will be spread apart. So this is what a base might look like, very simple. And if you're ordering it to move, you might grab it and then move it somewhere else. But in order for it to move, it might have to rotate to face the direction that you want it to move in first. And then it would move in the direction that it's rotated until it gets to where it's going.
Yeah, we were thinking like you grab it and move it, but what you actually can grab is kind of its ghost. And then if its ghost is placed far away, it would slowly track until it finds its own ghost.
Yes. And I like the idea of it rotating to face the direction that its ghost is facing.
Yeah, we should have little like headlight beams on it, so it looks like a little car.
Yeah.
Turning.
So in this case, imagine this asteroid is the thing. The first thing, once you drag its ghost, the first thing that happens is the whatever you drag faces the direction that it needs to move. So it might take like a split second to do that, to reorient. And then it would move in the direction that it would go.
Mm-hmm.
And then it would turn to face the direction that the ghost is facing.
We were also talking about how the player is going to interact. So we talked about being able to grab one of these guys and move him around. That could be tricky if the scene is very large, and so a lot of games use this mechanic where you can grab 2 points in space with your palms. So you kind of grip your 2 controllers with your palm. There's like a button on the controller there, and by doing that, it's like you're grabbing the whole world. And if you pull your arms apart, you would be zooming in to the world. And if you squeeze 2 points and you squeeze them together, it would be like you're zooming out from the world and making the world smaller. And finally, if you grab 2 points and twist, it's like you're twisting the whole world around you. And so in this way, you're able to navigate your perspective, your camera, to anywhere in the scene. So if your ships are very far away from you, you can use a couple of these squeeze, grab, and twist actions to actually get really close to your ships so you could reach out and grab them and touch them. Many games use this. For example, Tilt Brush is, I think, the #1 game that people would know about. It also uses the same mechanic where you can grab the scene.
Right.
Dude, check out those crystals.
Yeah.
Don't you have enough crystals, Alex? You gotta.
I do. I'm not sure where they are.
Wait, don't you mean? Well, what about the ones for Space Frog? We have like a ton of crystals in that project.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay. Meanwhile, the Justice League.
Whoa, those are free?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they're really simple geometric shapes.
Yeah, but they're so good.
They are very pretty looking. Okay, so I think that already imported. Sometimes it's hard to tell after Unity imports something successfully. Okay, I think that just downloaded because it downloads and then imports.
Yeah, it's weird that the download button and the import button are like the same. It just changes the text on them.
Right, right. Um,
Cool.
yeah, so once this is done importing, I'll bring it back into the scene.
Did you actually click import?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
it just
it's,
takes a
it's
while. Cool.
my
So
computer is doing
for
work.
today, my plan after this meeting is to code up some of these behaviors. So like the squeeze and drag for the environment, the click and move for your ships, and that would include both your bases, which are pictured here, your harvester, which I haven't seen yet, and your mirrors, which I also haven't seen yet, um, and possibly one cannon ship or some kind of attack. Because I just realized if the players are head to head and you only start with mirrors and harvesters, there's actually you don't have
Yes,
any weapons. But we could also think about weapons coming from outer space or maybe a stream of asteroids or something, and you could use your mirrors to deflect that stream in such a way that profits you.
yes, yes. Actually, that makes a ton of sense. So here for reference, this was just the stand-in thing that I had for a harvester, right? So basically, all of these objects are just like doing nothing until you tell them to do something.
Right?
So a harvester, you order. Imagine the harvesters. So this would be the front. You order the harvester to collect this resource. It would turn to face the resource, um, and then it would move. I mean, just imagine that it moved directly to the other
It
resource.
will be able to
Um,
drive better than Alex can drive.
yeah, um, and then once it gets it, uh, it might automatically collect it, or might take a second. But I think automatically would be fine. And then it would just turn to face back to the nearest base,
Yep.
and then go to the base. And then
It-
once it's at the base, it would stop at the base. So it's at the base, and then it's done.
I think it
Um,
should. I think we should treat mineral resource stores as like not a unitary resource, but like that little green blob might have 10 or 20 resource on it, and you can only
right.
capture maybe one of them at a time. So if you went to that blob and you captured a chunk of it, um, you would grab one piece of it, go back to the base, and if the blob was still there, like there were still 19 pieces left, the harvester would go back and forth until he got all of them.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's great. My general thought for the resources is like they're not some of them might be stationary, but some might be like moving through the space.
Oh
Um,
yeah, so there could be like a cluster of them moving, and if the one that the harvester just got is close to another one, like we can put a little bit of logic there where if the harvester looks back at where he just was and he's like, hey, there's more resources still there. But if they've moved on or something, then he wouldn't know to go find them.
yeah, like I think a good way to make it do it might be like, and this is where like it's really dangerous in this design phase because it could theoretically get like more and more complicated. Is like there are stationary resources and there are moving resources. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, and like the stationary resources, like
Well,
the thing. I mean, you have a much better sense of what's hard and what isn't.
here's what I would say is we can have just one behavior, which is that the harvester has a sphere of detection
Uh-huh.
around where his last harvest event was, or her. Um, and I keep saying he. It's 2019, Charlie. Get with it. Um, so when the harvester, whose sex has yet to be determined, is there at the area of minerals, and it gets
Yeah.
one, and it returns back to the base.
Yeah.
As soon as that completes that, it would do a check on where it just was, and if there was something still there, it would go back. And so that's just the only behavior it knows about. And
Yep.
then for the resources themselves, I say they all should be moving resources, but some of them could have a velocity of 0, which means they wouldn't actually move. But
Right.
the key point here is that we wouldn't have to design two types. It would just be
Yes.
the same type, it just doesn't move. And so
Yeah,
in that case where it's not moving, obviously the harvester would look back and see, oh hey, there's still minerals there, and would go back and get
yeah.
more.
So, um, okay, so there are three more things here to show. Okay, so this is obviously well, I guess not obviously, it's just an amorphous shape. This is an asteroid, right?
Oh, I
Um,
thought that was a big block of moldy cheese.
Maybe.
Obviously,
Well, I mean, an asteroid doesn't
space cheese.
necessarily not have to be made of cheese.
This is true.
Um, yeah. So what would be going on here is, so these would be large, slow moving, and basically, like you would have to move your ships out of the way of them, and your bases out of the way of them, and so this is like constantly creating like low level chaos.
Yeah,
Like this is like chaotic neutral, right?
yeah,
So like if you get hit by it, it'll damage your stuff, and basically it forces players to react.
yep.
Um,
Love it. Don't get hit by asteroids, people. They're
yep,
dangerous.
yep. And then so this is a comet. So I thought that this could be one of those things that is kind of like constantly moving into the space that
So
you
just
could.
like asteroids, but probably faster.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like same exact behavior, but you can deflect them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Dude, did you make this comment?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well,
I
whoever made
mean,
this comment, good job on this comment. It looks like it has about 3 triangles and it's so beautiful.
yeah, it's fairly low poly. I mean, it's got a great sense of motion to it. It
Yeah.
is an amazing model. Okay, so yeah, it would have the same exact properties as the larger asteroids, except these things move faster, um, and they can be deflected. So the last thing I have here, if I can find it, yeah, here. It's just very simple. This is a shield ship. So in terms of size, like the front of it is smaller than than any cross sectional area of the base ships. Um, but they would move faster than base ships, and you can use them to deflect the comet. So if a comet comes, you have this base thing, and the comet would come. It's really hard to tell in 2D if that would fly. That looks better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it
I mean,
hits
I
it,
can tell.
yeah. If it hits it, then it just gets bounced back. So it would like, you know,
Oh
go
wait,
like
so
that.
this isn't a shield then, this is a mirror.
Yeah, this is a mirror.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Um, yeah. Um, and so the things that you can get with your resources. So there would be one more thing to add for like a simple thing. So that would be like basically an attack thing that you can use to attack your enemy. Um,
And it's
that would be
basically the same as any other ship, except it has a little cannon on it that goes
yeah,
pew pew.
yeah. Um, yeah, and we should also figure out how to not make them overpowered. So one way to think about them could be um, like they have like limited ammo, and then they can kind of like torpedo suicide themselves into the enemy whatever.
Hmm. So you want to avoid the situation of like the first person who builds a tank gets over to the enemy and just immediately kills everything because it's just the only thing they can attack really.
Yeah, yeah. And did you ever read Ender's Game?
You've asked me this question literally every meeting we've had in the last year, And the
Okay.
answer is always the same. I've read all of the Ender's Game series. I've seen the movie. I think I've read Ender's Game twice, actually. So
Okay.
yes, I've read Ender's Game.
Yes. Okay. Still the same answer. Okay.
Yes, still the
So
same.
in Ender's Game, they mentioned something that's like incredibly applicable here, which is that basically in space, defense is much harder because you have an additional dimension to defend. You know, um, uh, right? So like, imagine on like if we're talking like a one-dimensional space, all you have to do is put something in front of you, and you're safe forever. In the two-dimensional space, all you have to do is surround yourself on on that two-dimensional plane.
Like a circle.
Yeah, a circle, a larger circle around your smaller circle. But in three-dimensional space, you have to defend attacks from more directions.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. Like in regular RTS games, you would have a base with a wall around it. That's actually a 2D defense.
Right,
There's
a
no such thing
2D.
as a 3D RTS as far as I know. Not a, well, there might be one or two, but StarCraft, for example, is a 2D RTS.
Yeah,
With this one, if you build a wall around you like you do in StarCraft, it's not going to do any good because enemies can come from above or below.
yeah,
So
yeah.
you,
I think
yeah,
maybe the player should start with like so like in StarCraft 2, the Zerg have the Queen unit, right? And so the Queen unit serves a lot of purposes, but one is early game defense. So oh, you know what? Maybe we could do. Maybe we could just have the bases have weapons, but you
mm,
can't attack with the bases. Like the bases are limited in how they can move. You know?
mm, I don't know. That feels like it could lead to more complexity because trying to limit areas, I don't want to limit areas because it's going to be. I feel like it's artificial to say
Yeah,
because
yeah,
if
you're
your
right.
base has a
You're right.
cannon on it, I should just be able to rush you with my bases, and then that's not so much fun.
Yeah,
I would sort of prefer not to have a cannon on the base, but I would say like to avoid your earlier concern of like one tank just coming over and killing everything. I think we should just make the tanks really weak so that it would take a few minutes to kill a base with a tank, and during that time you could easily build your own tank. Um, and then one thing we can think about that would be pretty simple to implement is upgrades. So
yeah,
later on in the game, if you have a lot of money, you can build a couple of tanks and upgrade the crap out of them. Now you can kill things in one hit. But at the
yeah,
very start of the game, they're going to be super weak.
yeah. I think that makes sense. So in other words, the trade-off would be if you built an early tank, you wouldn't be building another gatherer or a shield thing.
Yeah,
Um,
classic.
and so the enemy would be able to respond in time by building a tank as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And we could
So
also do things like obviously collisions are a damage source. So if
yes,
anything hits anything else, both things will sustain damage. If an asteroid hits you, it will sustain some damage. It has a shit ton of hit points, so it probably won't matter. You will die because you have a little hit points. But if you have an enemy tank in your base and you ram it with one of your vehicles, it will probably damage both vehicles a lot. And so you could even kill a tank that way too.
yeah, I like that idea, and I like the idea of tanks having less HP, but they have a damage output than the harvesters. So if you need to, you can
Yeah,
defend like in StarCraft 2, like you can defend
exactly.
using workers.
Yeah, I
So
like that.
yeah, cool. Okay, awesome. So in other words, the tanks, and I also really like the idea of the tanks, like it's like positioning is like really important. So like one tank is like really easy to defend, but like 10 tanks like surrounding you from different angles would be like harder to defend.
Yeah,
Yeah. Cool.
cool.
Um,
Hey, can you share this project with me through Unity Cloud? and then
Yeah.
I'll start working from this scene, and I'll see how much of this behavior I can get in the next few hours, and then
Cool.
we should meet again and do part 2 of today's game development video.
Next time on Dragon Ball Z. It's funny that whenever anybody says next time, I think on Dragon Ball Z, and anytime anybody says meanwhile, I think at the Justice.
For me, it's same bat time, same bat channel. Or same bat time, same bat channel for Batman.
Oh, interesting.
And then there was a ton of after these messages, we'll be right back from Cartoon Network back in the day. It was called something else, I guess. Anyway. Cool, I'm ready to get started.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm sharing assets.
Cool.
And so basically, I think in terms of like splitting our effort, a good thing to do would be I'll start with my magical volumetric light stuff. So I'll just start working on some very simple 3D assets. And so then you can just, whatever you're working on, you can just like add that asset into whatever the prefab is.
Cool. Hey, were you able to get the volumetric lighting in this project to work?
I think it comes in a sample scene. So I'll have to open the sample scene and then copy paste, from the inspector into this scene.
Which volumetric lighting package are you using?
I think it was the same one that we used for Space Pro.
Because we had used one at first that was a heavy one, and then we later went to a different one.
Yeah, I think this is the simpler one, the
nice.
lighter one.
Cool. Oh, excuse me. No, this is the complicated one.
You sure?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because there's a script here, and before it was like some kind of like object or something.
Yeah, I mean, we can try it. I'm just I'm always in favor of simpler assets because lots of reasons. But
well, I definitely have the other one in this as well. Although this seems to be pretty light considering there's like 1,000 in here.
Yeah, I mean it looks good. So, and you already have it in this project. So let's try to use it. And if there's no problems with it, then great.
Are you sure this isn't the one that we wound up using? This looks very familiar.
Pretty sure. Yep. The other one, the demo scene in the other one was like a cathedral. It was like a cathedral with just a few, just like 2 or 3 different light examples, and that was the whole demo scene.
Okay.
But yeah, this, I mean, I can see it working, so it's gonna. I think it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, sounds good.
These last 4 searches, Alex, are just like the definition of our game: crystals, volumetric lighting, space, and asteroids.
And asteroids, yeah. Okay, cool. So I'll dick around with that stuff. And meanwhile, at the Justice League, okay, you'll do your thing, and let's touch back in what you said, like 2 hours, something like that.
It probably will take me more than 2 hours to get serious work done, but before tonight is over.
Okay. Sounds good. Before tonight. Okay, Aura? Are you talking Aura is the one that we used?
I don't think we got one from the asset store. I think it was a very basic thing off of GitHub that I downloaded and imported into SpaceFrog.
Okay, well, I'll just open up SpaceFrog and find out what that is and export an asset package and do that song and dance.
Okay. Before you do that, can you share this project with me over Unity Collab?
It is uploading.
Oh, sweet. I see a little spinny.
Yep.
Cool.
Cool. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and here we are. Cool. So plan of attack. Um, by the way, how should the tanks interact with the shields? Shield things.
Their bullets should get reflected, and collisions damage both.
Okay. So bullet. So essentially, the bullet could be used against the so the shield reflects it. The collision damages both.
Yeah, but if you hit it like from behind, it wouldn't reflect it. It would damage it.
Right.
Yeah, but you could reflect it back, and you could kill a tank with a mirror.
Right.
Right.
Should the tanks fire automatically?
I think so.
Okay. Let's play around with that because I think like so the difference between StarCraft Brood War and StarCraft 2 is that in StarCraft 2 much more is everything is like the pathing, the unit pathing is better. The and you can also control like more than 16 units at a time.
Yeah, it's more
So like
macro focused.
more is done for you to make it easier, but obviously I personally I think StarCraft 2 is a better game at this point. Um, yeah, so I think it'd be interesting to play around with that idea. Or like maybe like if like the ship you can give like once the ship stops, it'll fire automatically, you know? So it like won't fire when it's moving, but like you give it an order and it'll move into a position and then it'll fire from that position, you know?
Yeah, we can play with it.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so let's check back in. It's almost 3 p.m. EST here. So what time do you want to check back in? Like 5?
Let's say 7.
Okay.
It might be sooner than that, but yeah, we'll say 7 at the latest.
Okay, sounds great. Okay. Peace out.
Cool. Later.